Welcome, as I'll be going over the Golden State Warriors off-season moves right now so far in obviously what has been a short free agency period yet, but so much has happened for the Warriors that I want to go over it a little bit all, and they've been making moves today, and it's been the biggest story essentially for the day, which is or was July 2nd, and let's go over it, right? So obviously Klay was to be a free agent. There were rumors about just the relationship being pretty much done, and eventually that ended up being true, which we now know. So there was the report that Warriors were going all in for Paul George, which, funny enough, Draymond said on his podcast that Paul George wanted to go here, but the Clippers just didn't want to help the Warriors or get Paul George when he wanted to go, which meant the Clippers get nothing, and yeah, Paul George went to the Philadelphia 76ers on a 4-year deal. And I mean, we'll get to that a little later. Or maybe I should actually put it like this, where we never apparently offered Jonathan Kuminga in the Paul George pursuit. Now, could that be spin control, right? Could that be damage control just because we did not trade Kuminga, that we don't want him to think that we were offering him? The reporting about Kuminga has pretty much been that he's untouchable, so it makes sense that we did not want to offer him for Paul George, and I honestly am happy with it. Because Paul George is already 34, and I feel like that would have been too much. I feel like that would have been too much to pay for Paul George. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, the Clippers could have taken Moody and Wiggins or something like that, right? And some picks. And I think they would have been still really good with that. But they wanted Kuminga. The Warriors didn't want to bulge on that, which I understand, to be quite honest with you. I am happy with that. Now, then the news of Klay leaving for the Dallas Mavericks obviously dropped 3-year, $50 million deal. So clearly it was not about the money. And there was, there were damage control with pieces about the relationship from both sides, right? Joe Lacob not wanting to pay him, playing hardball with pretty much everyone, which he has been doing throughout his whole tenure. And yeah, it worked with Steph, it worked with Draymond, but with Klay, that's a different personality. They knew his market, they knew his value, but they did not understand Klay's personality, and that's why he left for the Dallas Mavericks. And Klay apparently wanted Steph. Klay apparently told Steph to stay out of it in a way, where he wanted the Warriors to truly want to pay him and not do it just because Steph exercised his power in the franchise to have Klay to stay, or to, obviously pay Klay and have him stay. And that's what happened. It's a sad deal, but that's what it is at the end of the day. And Klay is now gone, and Steph had an emotional picture dump on his Instagram stories. If you want to cry a bit as a Warriors fan, go check that one out. And obviously, then we started making some moves. First, it was D'Anthony Melton. D'Anthony Melton is what is he, like 6'2", 6'3", or something like that. Guard, defensive upside, really good defensively, shoots the three ball well, and the only bad problem is back injury. He had a really bad, he had real issues with a back injury last year, which scares you, right? Back injuries are nothing to be played with. But hopefully we can just get him into our lap and make him work for a year, just like we did with Otto Porter Jr. and just like we've been known to do in a way. But I really like this move a lot for the Warriors, as a guy who can do a little bit of everything and defensively should give us obviously a little more defensive playmaking there, because he's a really great defender for what he does. And even though obviously we get a little smaller at the guard position, we should get better defensively at that position. Then the Warriors signed and traded for Kyle Anderson, which is a guy that makes perfect sense. Perfect guy for care systems, right? Can do a little bit of everything besides besides shooting, even though he can shoot it can shoot it, needs needs a lot of time. He looked washed for a better part of this last season, but in the playoffs, once he got more playing time, he turned it up and was sensational. And I think a lot of us that watched felt like he needed to be played more against Luka and the Mavericks, and that was a big mistake that the Timberwolves did. So I like this deal a lot. Kyle Anderson can play maybe even the small ball 5. He is obviously an all-around player, good playmaker, good rebounder. Could essentially be a Draymond, even how can you say it? Like a Draymond. No, I don't want to say replacement, but the word has just passed me by. Insurance, that's the word. As obviously he can fill his role in a way off the bench, and that's fine. That's really good. We'll see if we get Kyle Anderson, Draymond, and Kuminga lineups with no shooting, but that's gonna be something. Maybe Kuminga will become a sniper. Who knows, right? Because he's putting in a lot of work, and if we do not trade him for Markkanen, obviously he'll have to take a step, and he'll be playing the small forward position very likely, because there are still deals to be made with Wiggins, I suppose, and everything. So we'll see what happens there. But Kyle Anderson does a little bit of everything. Really good defensive player. Like I said, against Luka, he did really well in the playoffs, and he fits exactly what Steve Kerr wants. Unselfish player, a little bit of all-aroundness to him, even though offensively, obviously, there are some things that are just ugly, and we know he's called slow-mo for a reason. Okay, that's horrible. Anyway, then the Warriors are trying to make the Splash Bros Walmart version. I think I saw somebody say Splash Buddies since it's Buddy Hield. As we are working on a sign and trade for Buddy Hield, nothing has been fully done yet. It was reported like 2 or 3 hours ago that the Warriors are working on a sign and trade for Buddy Hield, which I think I read in that report that it's like you can send Guy Santos and a second round pick for him, which, I mean, that's a shooter off the bench who obviously he's not Klay, but he's one of the best shooters in the league probably ever. And hey, that's a good deal. We need shooting with Klay gone. Makes sense as the Anthony Melton and Buddy Hield as like, if you combine them, could you say it's a perfect replacement for Klay? I don't know. It feels a little stretched, and I don't think anyone can really replace Klay, right? But from a team building perspective, right, Buddy Hield and Anthony Melton make sense as a Klay replacement, and then you also get obviously Kyle Anderson as a really good rotational piece, and now you're building more of a strength in numbers team once again, with of course trying to get the one big piece which we'll get to. And then we hired Terry Stotts as a lead assistant, which is nice. He obviously coached with Portland for a lot of years, and that's of course a good deal. Lastly, he was supposed to be on the Bucks coaching staff last year, but things fizzled out with the then head coach Adrian Griffin Sr., and now he'll be our lead assistant. That's what the Warriors do. They always have top tier assistants in terms of head coach experience and just guys who could be head coaches essentially. Right, with Kenny Atkinson, Mike Brown, you could say even Luke Walton, even though he obviously didn't pan out as a head coach. But Kenny Atkinson and Mike Brown are the prime examples. And Jerry Stackhouse is another assistant that we hired. And then the biggest question mark, Lauri Markkanen. Are you willing to trade Jonathan Kuminga for Markkanen? That's the big question. That makes more sense. Markkanen is younger, on a better deal, average like 24 and 8, shoots the ball incredibly well, fits exactly the mold we need. Big and a shooter, fits the small forward, power forward spot right, gives us way more size, which we have been missing, and feels like a great fit. Now, obviously, Danny Ainge is a madman, and he'll want Kuminga and all the picks we can offer. He would probably want 8 first-round picks for Markkanen when you think about, obviously, Mikal Bridges going for 5. and Markkanen is a better player by a lot, I would say, actually. So, are you willing to give up Kuminga for Markkanen, or can you sweeten the deal and give Wiggins, Potts, Moody, and something like that, and like for first, I think we can trade for Markkanen. Is that enough? Is that to get them swayed? And is it worth it to do this, or rather give up Kuminga and picks and Kuminga and picks for Markkanen, and you can keep Wiggins and I guess Potts. So then you would have, then it would be Steph, Melton, Wiggins, I guess Steph, Melton, Wiggins, Markkanen, and Draymond. Off the bench, you would have Potts, you would have Moody, I guess, you would have Hield, you would have Kyle Anderson. I guess there would still be Looney unless we packed him in there somewhat. Then you would have Trace in there. So is that enough to be a contender? Might be. So those are the things to talk about the Warriors. The biggest question mark. Trade Kuminga for Markkanen at the end of the day. If that's what they want to do, they are serious about contending. But I don't know if it's enough. That's the problem, right? And then you give up on a 21-year-old who's shown improvement every year. He clearly wants to go to the top with his attitude, and you might regret it down the line. That's the thing, right? With Paul George, 34 years old. I think he would have regretted it with Kuminga, even though he's not Michael Jordan, and we don't know if he'll be an all-star, if he'll be a star, but he's shown you so much that I do understand why the Warriors are hesitant, because I think he has the traits of a all-star guy, and just a star guy in terms of even his attitude, his like willingness, I don't know. I just feel that about Kuminga, but that might just be my bias at the end of the day, and because I've grown to attach to him. So those are my thoughts about the Warriors off-season, and we'll see what happens in the coming days, because there might be something on the horizon, right? We might trade for Markkanen tonight, or on the 3rd of July, or between 3rd and 4th of July. So I'll be here to cover it as always. More NBA news coming at you later on today. And as always, be kind to yourself and to others. And I'll catch you all tomorrow.